doesn't love hot, powerful female superheroes, am I right? Courtney Whitmore in this alternate universe is a magic user wielding a staff that allows her to channel the power of the stars. She was the apprentice of Starman and fought to avenge his death. This version of Courtney looks like a mashup of Black Cat and Stargirl somewhat. She has white hair, a black mask, and wears a black and red long sleeve crop top with stars on it, red gloves, and black shorts. Crop tops for the win! I'm a big fan of the crop top. Can't wait for summer so everyone can wear crop tops. Number 9, the most dangerous woman in all of Europe. Is there a time period that exists that does not look good on Natasha? In the 1602 universe, Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, is known as the most dangerous woman in all of Europe and is a freelance spy, not loyal to any particular country. She ends up aligned with Dr. Doom's alternate, Count Otto von Doom, in the 1602 alternate universe of Earth 311, which also ends up resulting in her death when she questions orders given to her and Doom's plan. Number 8, Vampy. If you are a fan of Vampirella and also a fan of futuristic, potentially cyberpunk looks, then I have a hot alternate for you. Anarchy Studios published a comic series in the early 2000s introducing an alternate version of Vampirella from the future. The series was named after Vampirella's nickname, Vampy. This Vampy sought to cure her vampirism and ran around in a zipped up red leotard, thigh highs with a holster slash garter attached to keep them up, and red boots or futuristic kind of looking sneakers on her feet. She also had a gold chain style choker and arm bracelets and red gauntlets. This was a pretty epic look for Vampy, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love it. I also love the sometimes futuristic sneakers that she wore. I need a pair of those. She still sported her signature golden bat symbol as well in this version, which I think is the symbol of Draculon? Pretty sure. Number 7, Dark Supergirl. This version of Supergirl was created when Lex Luthor exposed Supergirl to black kryptonite. She was a duplicate of the original, but inverted morally, being more evil and dark than her original counterpart. She also appears to have a much shorter skirt. I guess shorter skirts are more evil than longer skirts? At least according to comic book artists and black kryptonite rays. This version of Supergirl was able to handily take out most of the Justice League members, including the Flash. In the end, she was taken down by Wonder Woman and her lasso of truth. Wonder Woman had managed to bind Supergirl and Dark Supergirl together in an effort to find out who was who, as Dark Supergirl had managed to force Supergirl into swapping outfits with her. She did a really fast quick change. Being bound together by the magical lasso caused the two beings to merge once more and become one entity. However, Dark Supergirl's persona would continue to live on inside Kara Zor-El for some time, representing her darker half, which I also kind of love. I kind of love that she just has like a dark half. So there's like good Supergirl, slightly evil Supergirl, and they both kind of live within her. Number 6, Jenna and Madeline Pryor. These two were obviously alternates who took inspiration from Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor on Earth 616, but were more or less their own characters. Madeline, or Madeline, and Jenna both resided in Limbo, and Madeline was preparing her sister to inherit the powers of the Phoenix Sword, a blade that grants its user powers similar to that of the Phoenix Force from Earth 616. Madeline herself stole the blade from the Shadow King. These two are a couple of the raciest alternates I've ever come across. They are wearing metal bikinis, if you can call it that look like they got stuck onto them somehow. I don't know how they're staying on. I don't know. Magic. Art. Number 5, Mistress Mary. Even her name is hotter than the original. This version of Mary Marvel comes to us from JLA Classified. She is tough as nails, kicks Guy Gardner's butt, and has an amazingly badass costume to boot. This version of Mary keeps her hair back in an all-business ponytail, wears long dark gloves, a bodysuit complete with a lightning bolt window. In some panels it appears to be a sort of see-through plasticky yellow, and in others it's just a cutout shape in her costume. Her bodysuit attaches to fishnets or stockings, with one strap just sort of flapping free. And my favorite part, she wears a big pair of combat boots, all the better to kick butt with. Number 4, DCEU Mera. Probably one of the hottest versions of Mera in the entire DC universe, comes to us from the DCEU films. I personally don't think the Aquaman film would have been as successful without Mera in it, Amber Heard was the actress who played Mara in the film, and she did an amazing job looking and acting the part. Very well cast. Add in all the stunning costumes and outfits that we see Mara in, and it's easy to understand why her DCEU version is considered one of the hottest alternates around. Seriously, the sight of Amber Heard's Mara in that stunning jellyfish dress is enough to make anyone swoon. Pretty sure everyone watching that was just like, I'm weak in the knees. Do whatever she wants, please. She's just so pretty. And let's also not forget just how badass Mara was in the film. And how smart she was. She's the whole package, really, of hotness. Mara, of course, doesn't always play the role of the hero, but she has fought alongside Aquaman enough times that I think we can count her as one for the purpose of this list. Number 3, Rachel Roth. This version of Raven comes to us from the world of the DC bombshells. I love this world. It's just so stylized. If I were ever to do a Raven cosplay, I think this is the one I'd most want to do. Also, if I were to ever visit like an alternate world, I think I'd want to visit the DC bombshells. This version of Raven became the mind-controlled pet of Joker's daughter. She ended up being saved, however, by Zatanna and Mary Marvel. Her costume in this universe consists of devil's horns, a corseted bodysuit, long matching gloves, fishnet stockings, and an off-the-shoulder cape with its standard jewel fastening. Overall, it's just an amazing look for Raven. I really like it. Number 2, She-Thor. This version of Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk comes to us from the famous pages of Sensational She-Hulk issue number 50, where Jennifer is looking for a new writer for her comic after her writer died. In truth, the famous comic book writer John Byrne was not dead, but was leaving the series. And Jennifer herself in the comic had him tied up in her office's closet. She was just tired of him writing for her, and she sought a new comic book writer. One of the pitches her character receives in the comic is the idea of a story where she herself is an alternate version of Thor. Goddess of lightning and wielder of Mjolnir, she is the sensational She-Hulk. This version of She-Hulk sports a cape, a winged headpiece, and a metal bikini. Gotta say, I'm a fan of this mashup. Jennifer would make a great Norse goddess. However, she didn't go for this one. She-Hulk wasn't too impressed with it. It's hard to impress She-Hulk. Number 1, Manga Marvel Girl. Okay, so the Mangaverse definitely has one of the most random and hottest versions of Jean Grey ever. Mostly because of the drawing style, though, I think. Honestly, the Mangaverse just gets all the hottest versions of female superheroes usually, and some of the male superheroes too. This version of Jean usually keeps her hair pulled back in a green scrunchie. She wears a green and gold super crop bikini style top, and arm warmers, and super shiny green pants. Alternatively, she can also be seen in a more classic but still anime version of her original costume. Short, green skirt, big, thigh-high yellow boots, and an off-the-shoulder shirt with a yellow-collared harness over top.
Starting us off in at number 10, Crystal. Crystal is a character associated with a ton of different groups in the Marvel Universe. She is the Inhuman Princess, yet throughout her history she has appeared associated with different groups, the likes of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and to a lesser extent, the X-Men. She was exposed to the Terrigen Mist and gained psionic control over the elements of earth, fire, air, and water, and other natural materials by extension, which kind of makes her powers slightly confusing. All in all though, she is a character who has a whole lot going on, and has a history that is perplexing at best. She first appeared in Fantastic Four issue 45 in 1965, appearing alongside the Inhuman royal family. She fell hard for the Human Torch Johnny Storm, and briefly joined the Fantastic Four team because of this. She was written out of the team though in Fantastic Four issue 105 after Jack Kirby departed from the title. Then she had a stint where she fell for Quicksilver, whom she had a daughter with named Luna. Then she rejoined the Fantastic Four, left again a year after that, and then in 1991 became an Avenger. Hope you guys are following. That stint lasted for a handful of years until 1998 when she returned to Atalan, making guest appearances in various stories for years to come. Eventually, in her timeline, we hit the all-new, all-different Marvel, where she led her own team of Inhumans and got a brand new look which consisted of a pixie cut, and looked very different than her previous depictions. Overall, Crystal seems like she was birthed from a promising idea, but never really managed to find a place in the comics for decades, hence her constant flux throughout the Marvel Universe. Up next at 9, Rainbow Girl. Rainbow Girl lands on this list thanks to her very confusing powers. We've actually discussed the character on our series of superpowers no one understands, which you should definitely check out in case you haven't already. Rainbow Girl is an extraterrestrial character from the planet of Zolnar. A metahuman, her abilities consist of wielding the powers of the mysterious emotional spectrum, resulting in unpredictable mood swings. In other words, she is an inherently sexist character. But it gets worse. So her real shtick is that she taps into different colors that result in different emotions. Red is anger, blue is hope, green is willpower, which also is a little bit baffling. But she can also create a pheromone field around herself that looks like a rainbow. It gives her an irresistible personality to everyone, because it's not just looks that matter, it's personality too, right? Right? Jeez, God, DC, could you be any more on the nose? Here's the kicker though. How do these powers work? Well, it turns out even Rainbow Girl has zero clue. According to Jeff Johns, she doesn't fully understand her powers, but rather, she uses them more so for fun. In at number 8, Nebula. Similar to some of the characters we discussed on part 1 of this list, Nebula can often be considered befuddling due to the differences between her comic iteration and her MCU adaptation. Nebula in the MCU is Thanos' adoptive daughter, who suffered from the Mad Titan's onslaught of biomodifications. The version in the comics though is his granddaughter, a fact that Thanos initially refused to accept as truth and led to the tyrant severely abusing her during the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. Thanos tortured her by having her constantly on the brink of death, never dying but barely living, which Thanos would boast to be his greatest creation. After he had all but won and defeated those who opposed him after his now famous snap that wiped out half of all living things, she would take advantage of the fact that he had expanded his consciousness into the universe, and therefore left his body in a comatose state. So what'd she do? She took the gauntlet from him, and restored herself to her full health, and banished him. Then she decided to use it to try to conquer the universe, which, thanks to her inexperience with it, was a plan that was thwarted by Adam Warlock and company. A year later, she would be converted into a cyborg in the 3rd volume of the Silver Surfer comics, and would return much later in the Annihilation story event that made her fellow pals in the current iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy popular, the same ones who would then be adapted into the MCU. Full circle! Up next at 7, Raven. DC's Raven is a character who helped revolutionize the Teen Titans, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez back in 1980. She is a powerful empath who senses emotions and can control something called her soul self, which is essentially an astral body. She is capable of various kinds of magic and sorcery, and has become one of the most prominent members of the Titans over the years. But she's also got a demonic father named Trigon who causes her a whole lot of strife, and constantly thrusts her into narratives where she's turned evil thanks to his influence. Hence the confusion around the character over the years. Remember that time she got hella weird and erotic with Starfire when she interrupted her wedding to Dick Grayson and then disintegrated the priest? Well, technically she interrupted the wedding by disintegrating the priest, but you guys know what I mean. There's a whole lot of that kind of stuff in the comics, but perhaps an even stranger moment in her history was after the New 52 reboot, when DC decided to put her in a Raven costume, in which she was called Trigon's Blackbird of Terror. It seems as if Raven is a consistent character up until Trigon makes his frequent appearances in her life and then screws her up all over again, making it hard for readers to keep up. And at number 6, Gwenpool. Who is Gwenpool? Is she a female version of Deadpool? Is she Gwen Stacy as Deadpool? What's her deal? We want to know. Those are the questions that land her a spot on this list. Gwenpool, whose real name is Gwendolyn Poole, Poole spelled with an E at the end, is a character who originated as an amalgamation of Gwen Stacy and Deadpool on a variant cover of Deadpool's Secret Wars issue 2. This occurred thanks to the increasing popularity of Spider-Gwen at the time. Now eventually, seeing the popularity the character on the variant cover had, Marvel created 2 stories featuring her, one of which was a backup story in a Howard the Duck comic. Here, a retcon occurred. Her name was revealed to be Gwen Poole, and in her following solo series, it was revealed that she was a character who had come from another universe in which she was privy to the comic book characters and all of the heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe. She claims that she is from the real world, like our world. And unwilling to be an extra in these stories, after arriving in the Marvel Universe, she got her own costume made. The tailor misunderstood her request based off of her name, which he believed was misspelt, thinking that she wanted a costume similar to Deadpool's, thus creating her a Deadpool-esque outfit. Apparently he also had a surplus of pink material, and Gwen had pink highlights in her hair, hence why he made it into a pink costume. So there you have it, friends. Gwenpool has no relation to Deadpool whatsoever, minus appearing on a variant cover. And also having someone mistaken her name. Up next in her number 5 spot, Rogue. Rogue may be one of the more prominent heroic members of the X-Men, but once upon a time she was a villain. Or at least debuted as such. After her mutant powers manifested, she was tracked down by Mystique, who at the time was dating the precognitive character Destiny, who had advised her to look for Rogue. Chris Claremont had initially intended to have Mystique be Rogue's real mother, FYI. Anywho, Rogue joined up with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Over the years, the character has been in a slew of different romantic relationships that often left fans scratching their heads, mainly because they either occur on alternate Earths, but are talked about so much that fans confuse what's canon, or because all of a sudden Rogue can touch someone that she couldn't touch before and now they're knocking boots because of it. Case in point, Colossus. In X-Men issue 100, Rogue discovers that she can touch him, so naturally they make out, which leads to a relationship. This caused quite the stir since in the past, Colossus was actually affected by her powers. Now let's take a look at Age of Apocalypse. She was married to Magneto and had kids with him after ditching Gambit. People freaked out over it. In the main 616 universe, she was retconned to have been in a relationship with Sentry when it was revealed that he existed. In the 2013 Age of Ultron event, which had nothing to do with the MCU film might I add, she was married to Havoc and they led the Morlocks. And you know what else is confusing about Rogue? The number of times she's absorbed a power that is so immense that it eventually gets retconned. It happened in House of M when she absorbed Geneviève's cosmic powers. Up next, number 4, Fire. Fire, aka Beatrice DaCosta, first appeared in Super Friends issue 25 back in 1979. She lands a spot on this list for 2 specific reasons. First off, why is she green if she is fire? Second, and arguably more confusing, is she a queer character or not? Let's start with the former. Back when she first appeared in the comics, we're talking pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, she was known as Green Fury. Her powers of green pyrokinesis were birthed from Brazilian mysticism, hence why her flames are green. She has the ability to become a being purely composed of living green fire, which is different than the Human Torch, whose flames are fiery plasma, or rather an aura of fire, 2 different things. Post-Crisis, Beatrice's name was changed to Green Flame, which she then changed yet again to Fire after joining up with the Justice League International team. Now, let's discuss the latter point of befuddlement. She had some serious romantic tension with Ice Maiden, a character who replaced Ice, who was Fire's best pal and teammate on the Justice League after Ice was killed. Fire and Ice, get it, huh? Ice Maiden and her had an on and off again flirtation that seemed more like Beatrice was obsessed with Ice Maiden rather than it just being a reciprocated flirtation. There was also a whole series of panels in Justice League America issue 103 that queerbaited the crap out of the 2 of them, but then played it off as Ice Maiden just trying to give Beatrice ice back. Their story would carry on with them almost always getting intimate, one of them saying, "Is this what you want?" And then that want is just some sort of fake out queerbaiting. Eventually Ice Maiden would come out as bisexual, but Fire would remain lost in the ether of terrible queerbait. Moving on to number 3, Barbara Gordon. While DC's Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, doesn't seem like a perplexing character initially, there is one facet of her history that is arguably baffling. We're talking about how exactly the character lost her ability to walk, and how exactly she gained it back. Not only is that one of the most controversial aspects of her character, and one of the hot topics that arose during the start of the New 52 when she was revealed to have become mobile once again as Batgirl, but it also is something that can be a little confusing when you look at exactly how the whole situation unraveled. Barbara Gordon would become paralyzed from the waist down thanks to the actions of the Joker in The Killing Joke, a story that is technically not canon and occurs in an alternate universe, and makes Barbara a mere plot device. The story isn't about her, and her mutilation and assault is merely to advance Batman and Jim Gordon's stories and motivations. Writers Kim Yale and John Ostrander, after reading The Killing Joke, would end up working with DC to revive the character as disabled rather than have her fall into obscurity, thus creating the persona Oracle. The Killing Joke was written to not be canon, and included some post-crisis characters that were no longer canon. Yet, it ended up becoming one of the most defining stories of Barbara's history, and since has been really wishy-washy in terms of not being canon and then becoming canon again. The whole thing, very confusing. But becoming Oracle did a lot of positive things for the character. She became more intelligent as writers relied on her other abilities that previously had been barely touched upon. Sure, she was a librarian, but often she was written as more of a stereotype, a woman who served a greater purpose to the male characters she supported narratively. It also provided representation as a handicapped character who was still out there fighting crime, making an impact as a superhero, which was really cool. Then, when she regained the ability to walk in the New 52, the character was said to have still suffered the events of The Killing Joke, something that remained canon despite being a story from an alternate universe originally. Barbara had undergone extreme physiotherapy and surgery, and her disability had only ailed her for 3 years rather than decades. All in all, it's a little hard to follow. Moving on to number 2, Emma Frost. Being a story. Emma Frost is a character who is known for using her sexuality to her advantage. While we're not going to get into the whole history behind her objectification in comics versus her ownership of and agency over that sexuality, that's a whole other number for a different list. What we will discuss is the nuances of her powers. For starters, Emma was once considered an Omega level mutant. That is no longer the case according to House of X issue 1, which left her out of the Omega count. Her powers mainly consist of 2 overarching abilities. She has immense telepathic powers and can transform her body into an organic diamond state, Fate that gives her enhanced strength and durability, but also suppresses her telepathy. This power manifested when Genosha was destroyed, and this form is self-sustaining, meaning she doesn't need food or water to survive in it. She is also numb to emotion, pain, and empathy while in this form. Now she has been both a villain and a hero, and has teamed up with the X-Men and led them once upon a time, but often is a confusing character in the sense that she's jumped back and forth with her allegiances over the years multiple times. And last but not least, in at number 1, Black Canary. Black Canary first appeared in 1947's Flash Comics issues 86, and is a cluster of confusion. In the Golden Age, the character had the alter ego of Dina Drake, who went by the alias of Black Canary and fought alongside her husband, Detective Larry Lance. She didn't have superpowers. Rather, she was more of a vigilante who often posed as a criminal in order to infiltrate gangs. Later on, she was given a superpower called the Canary Cry, which was a high-powered sonic scream capable of incapacitating the likes of Superman. Seems straightforward, right? Haha, time for things to get messy. After the Golden Age, like the rest of DC's Golden Age heroes, Black Canary and her husband Larry were relegated to Earth 2. But in 1969, Larry was killed, and Dina decided that she was going to move to Earth 1 in the aftermath, where she joins the Justice League and then gets it on with Green Arrow. Weird. This is when she develops the Canary Cry. In the Silver Age, Black Canary then became two separate entities, Dina Drake Lance and Dina Laurel Lance, the former being the mother of the latter. The younger Black Canary became the focus in the comics, and she was the one who retained the metahuman Canary Cry ability. By the time the New 52 rolled around, those two characters were amalgamated into one, known as Dina Drake. In addition to that, if that wasn't confusing enough, her CW adaptations are also perplexing. There's multiple iterations: Dina Laurel Lance, Sarah Lance, the White Canary, and Dina Drake, all portrayed by different actors. In at number 10, Gwenpool. First appearing in Howard the Duck issue number 1 from volume 6, where after a series of events she almost assassinates Howard, Gwen hits us with a strong dose of meta. And I mean, the whole assassinating Howard came with the reasoning that he was a fictional character that would likely come back from death anyway. Makes sense. Despite having no relation to Deadpool, minus a costume mix-up and the whole meta-awareness thing, Gwen manages to live up to her unintentional namesake and capture the spirit and humor of Deadpool that fans of Deadpool adore, but adds a much more sentimental touch to the character, a sensitivity that has us hungry to learn more about her backstory, and how she ended up in the comic universe to begin with. Plus, she's super cute. And at number 9, Donna Troy. One of the original members of the Teen Titans, Donna Troy first came to be known as Wonder Girl, the teenage version of Wonder Woman, although eventually became her own entity separate of Diana. In the early days of that transition, she was Wonder Girl, Wonder Woman's younger sister, who would then join forces with Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad to form the Junior Justice League, aka the Teen Titans. Eventually her backstory was retconned, and she was no longer an Amazon, but rather an orphan who had been saved by Wonder Woman and brought to Paradise Island to be raised. There, she was given her powers by Wonder Woman villain Baroness Paula von Gunthers, specifically the Baroness's Purple Ray. She's grown up a lot since then, and was retconned a whole lot too. Now with her current DC Rebirth origins being that she was in fact made out of clay to destroy Wonder Woman, but that the Amazons gave her false memories of that initial origin story back from the 60s where she was an orphan raised on Paradise Island. And at number 8, Miss Martian. Miss Martian, aka Megan Maors, first appeared in the pages of DC Comics in 2006 in Teen Titans number 37. In the comics, she's a white Martian who pretended to be a green Martian. In the animated show Young Justice, she's the niece of Martian Manhunter. Regardless of which origin story you prefer, Miss Martian is an incredibly powerful superhero, and has quite the heart. Her story in the comics is full of turmoil. Her heritage is something that constantly plagues her, and all she really wants to do is belong. Her Young Justice self is way more appreciated as a character though, as the younger version of the character not only struggles with her heritage, but also with controlling her powers, and briefly gives up using telepathy altogether. Despite her ups and downs, Megan has always been known for her kindness and her passion. Up next at 7, Liberty Bell. Jumping back to the Golden Age for this one, let's take a look at Libby Lawrence, aka Liberty Bell. She's a hero that operated during World War II, but not initially with superpowers. That would come later, after she fled Poland from the Nazi threat, was smuggled into France, escaped the Battle of Dunkirk, and swam the English Channel after the Germans shot her boat out of the water. Yeah, Lawrence is pretty spectacular. In 1941, she returned to her home of Philadelphia, where she gained her powers: enhanced speed, strength, stamina, and sonic vibrational pulses. She would use those powers to help put an end to the Nazi threat, and those Axis forces who tried to infiltrate the US at the time. Eventually she would join the All-Star Squadron, and marry speedster Johnny Quick, the two having a daughter together who would inherit both of their powers, or rather inherit her mother's and learn her father's. And at 6, Cyber 6. Blast from the past here for you 90s kids. Cyber 6 first debuted in her first self-titled 1992 Argentine comic in Italian comics magazine Scorpio. Dressed in leather, she was a genetically engineered superhero who disguised herself as a male high school teacher during the day. At night, she fought off forces of monstrous biological weapons who were created by her maker, a Nazi genetic engineer named Dr. von Riker, who would implant cybernetic organs into the bodies of dead prisoners. One of his projects after the war was the Cyber series, artificial humanoids possessing superhuman strength and agility. But the Cybers revolted, and only Cyber 6 got away, with Riker surviving by putting his brain into the body of a panther. Needless to say, she's been through some intense shit. In 1999, her comic was adapted into a 13-episode animated show that some of you 90s kids might remember. In at number 5, Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl has gone through many a retcon over the years. Always paired with Hawkman Qatar Hall, or Carter Hall, depending on which origin you're considering, Hawkgirl has an intense connection to Ninth Metal, a mysterious and powerful property in the DC universe that negates gravity. Her wings are made of Ninth Metal, her weapons and gravity-defying belt are made of Ninth Metal, and her senses have been enhanced because of her constant proximity to Ninth Metal. Her and Hawkman are cursed to always find one another and always die, then reincarnate and begin the process again, the first version of her being the Egyptian princess Shayara. These days, the character made her DC Rebirth debut as Kendra Saunders, and briefly went by the name Lady Blackhawk in the recent Dark Knight's Metal story arc. She was transformed by Barbados into an evil version of herself, but luckily Wonder Woman's lasso of truth restored her memories. And at number 4, Kitty Pryde. When Kitty Pryde, the phasing mutant, was first introduced in the Uncanny X-Men back in 1980, she was seen as the kid sister to many of the group. During the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries, the character grew up quite a bit, and then takes on the alias of Shadowcat. During the all-new X-Men, she gets her flirt on with Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, after the X-Men team up with the Guardians of the Galaxy to rescue Jean Grey. Then they got engaged, but eventually broke it off and she returned to Earth, where she took over leading the X-Men when Storm stepped down after the 2016 Inhumans vs. X-Men story arc. Pretty impressive. And at number 3, X-23. X-23, also known as Laura Kinney, is sometimes referred to as Wolverine's daughter. This is because she's his cloned daughter. In the Innocent Lost story arc, a top-secret program attempts to recreate Weapon X. Except there's a problem. The only genetic sample of Weapon X has been damaged. It has a busted Y chromosome. So instead, one of the geneticists suggests creating a female genetic twin, which also doesn't work until Try-23, which was then combined with an embryo. Laura is then born, with the same kinds of abilities as Logan's, and goes through one hell of a roller coaster of tragedies that eventually leads her to him and the X-Men. While the character was first depicted as a kid in her debut in the animated series X-Men Evolution, the character has been given a much more persona in various comics. So yeah, female Wolverine who's got a couple of murders under her belt and has that broodiness down packed. What's not to love? In our number 2 spot, Silk Spectre. The first. We talked about Silk Spectre the second on one of our previous hottest lists, so it's only right if we talk about the woman she inherited her looks and abilities from, Silk Spectre the first, Sally Jupiter. One of the founding members of the Minutemen, she received quite the attention from the male population at the time, seen as a sex symbol who criminals and villains didn't mind getting caught by. While she was more of a celebrity than a vigilante, Sally was still a force to be reckoned with. After ex-teammate the Silhouette was murdered by the Liquidator, Sally hunted the Liquidator down and murdered him at his hideout. She felt she owed Silhouette after unfairly voting her out of the Minutemen group when the news of her sexuality came out in the press. See, she's got a heart in there, even though she's cold often. And finally, in our number 1 spot, Starfire. Starfire is notoriously one of the sexiest superheroes out there, to the point where the character has actually been criticized on how excessively sexual her depictions have been. Regardless of what opinion you hold on that front, it's undeniable that the alien from Tamarin has some major sex appeal, which only makes her more awesome, considering the feats that she's actually capable of, and her background story. The girl had gone through hell and back before coming to Earth. Her sister had imprisoned her, and made her a slave, who was tortured and abused big time. Her planet was then invaded, she was then abducted again and experimented on. After she escaped to Earth and became part of the Teen Titans, she couldn't shake that past, or rather her sister's nefarious intentions, and the Marv Woman George Perez run on the Teen Titans dived into those stories, which showed off how much butt she was capable of kicking. All in all, Starfire deserves a whole hell of a lot of respect, more than she sometimes gets, and she's definitely a worthy hero, despite her ups and downs at the hands of DC editors. Definitely worthy of being a fan favorite.
Number 10. Godlike abilities. Donna Troy's Wonder Girl has had so many retcons to her backstory, it's really hard to keep track. But for the sake of this point, I would like to focus on the specific one where she was an orphan, saved, and raised on New Cronus before having her mind wiped and being returned to Earth as a young teen. Donna realized she had superhuman abilities and decided to join up with another team, the Teen Titans. In fact, the name came from a memory that Donna had from her life before she was returned to Earth. You see, see, while Donna didn't know it, she was actually one of the Titan seeds, chosen by the goddess Rhea. What is really strange about her powers in this one is that there weren't more questions or concerns surrounding where they came from at the time. Of course, now we know what was up with that storyline, but also the origins of her powers have flip-flopped so many times, you might have even forgot this one yourself. I also just think it makes a lot more sense when her powers actually come from magic. Or like, she was also made out of clay. It just, like, then makes a lot more sense. Just a random orphan. Number 9, power cloning. Or mimicking, power copying? Hope Summers possesses the ability to adopt any other mutant's powers within a certain distance to her. She clones or mimics their powers and has access to those abilities when they are at their strongest. Pretty cool, right? But it gets even cooler. As far as we know, there is no real limit to how many powers Hope can take on at once. And even better, her powers don't work the same as Rogue's powers, in the sense that other mutants she takes powers from won't find their powers drained, and she does not have to make physical contact with them in order to mimic their powers. One of her few weaknesses, because, I mean, they had to give her something, or she'd be way too powerful to make her even writable, are time and distance. But what I've wondered is, what does this mean when Hope takes on the powers of a teleporter? Let's say she took on Nightcrawler's powers and she decided to travel to the moon. Could she do that? Would she make it all the way? Would her powers just conk out as soon as she got to, for example, the Brimstone dimension? How do these powers even work when she moves to another dimension? Is that far enough for them to stop working, or is that within range? There are a lot of unanswered questions. Would she even make it to the moon? Would she like get halfway there and then just like plop out of the air or something? All of these questions make me wonder exactly how the distance weakness applies exactly and what it means for Hope's insane mutant powers. Number 8, Acid Spit. Wait, what? Who is Acid Spit and is a super attractive female superhero? Why, Supergirl, of course. If you're not familiar with the storyline involving this one might throw you for a loop. After all, other Kryptonians like Superman can't spit acid, so what is up with this? Well, this power comes from a time when Supergirl was a Red Lantern, and it was through her power ring that she was granted this ability. So while you might not have understood this one before, hopefully that helps to explain it. Although, Supergirl as a Red Lantern to me is also a very strange idea, but it happened. Number 7, Canary Cry. Black Canary's Canary Cry is a confusing one because we've had so many different iterations of the character. Her Canary Cry has been a terrifying shriek that has been shown to destroy a building and possibly give someone brain damage. But then, as an alternative, it's also been shown as just like a simple distraction power. The power level fluctuates almost as much as the origins of the Black Canary character has. So, how powerful is the Canary Cry? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is it super powerful? Is it only a little powerful? Where are we on the power levels there? Number 6, Trichokinesis. Medusa of the Inhumans possesses the power to control her hair with a psychic field. She controls each strand using her hair to bind, attack, or even lift. The strange thing? Her hair has been shown to be even stronger than she is herself. All I can think to really make sense of how ridiculous this seems is that she must have a very good hair care routine for her hair to be as strong as it is. It has always made me wonder as well if like it hurts if she breaks a strand of hair, or if it hurts to grow it, because I imagine it's gotta be thick. It's gotta be heavy too. Medusa has a lot of hair. How does she lift all that hair? How does her neck survive? Number 5, Chaos Magic. First of all, what really even is Chaos Magic? Who came up with this name? Also, these are no longer mutant powers that belong to Scarlet Witch. They allow her to alter reality and do all kinds of wacky stuff. 'Cause magic, and 'cause comics. Magic is always a weird one to talk about because it never really needs to be as strongly defined as others. It's magic after all, so in a sense, almost anything can be possible. You can just be like, well, it's magic, so whatever. The most bizarre things about these powers and Scarlet Witch's character in general are the inconsistencies. In the MCU, her powers are nowhere near as powerful as in the comics, and her power levels even in the comics fluctuate all the time. Another inconsistency has been their origin, which has created some pretty big plot holes. Like, okay, so how did Hope use Scarlet Witch's power, or amplify Scarlet Witch's power, if you will, to help rid the world of the Phoenix Force if Scarlet Witch was never a mutant? Hope can only take mutant powers. Hope can only amplify mutant powers. So that doesn't make any sense anymore. Number 4, bad luck versus good luck and probability. It's strange that comics even felt it necessary to grant Black Cat superpowers at all, but of course, as her name implies, she ended up getting bad luck powers added to her character, which caused those around her to experience bad luck. The weird thing is that shouldn't this then mean that because Black Cat's enemies have bad luck, she herself therefore has good luck? And therefore, that good luck should maybe help to eliminate the negative effects of the bad luck powers for the people that she cares for. But no, apparently your enemies having bad luck does not necessarily mean that you get good luck for you and your friends. You get good luck. No one else does. To be honest, the whole idea of probability as a power is confusing to me, and makes my head hurt just thinking about how much the world around you would actually have to be manipulated to make that superpower actually work. Although I will say, I do think luck is an awesome power to have, regardless of how illogical it seems to me at times. I just keep wondering when the mysterious stranger from Fallout is going to pop up and give Domino a hand in the comics. I always put a lot of luck into my characters when I'm playing on Fallout 4. When I create my characters, I put a lot into luck. I just think luck can be great. Also, do Black Cat and Domino's powers cancel each other out if they fight each other? Has this happened in the comics? Someone let me know. And if it hasn't happened, we need to make it happen with HeroClix. Number 3, phasing. Okay, so this one is less about the power being ridiculous, contradictory, or inconsistent because of writing. In other words, this non-understandable power is not really a why moment, but a how moment. Okay, well, it's kind of a why and a how. But it's coming from a place of mystery and actually really good writing, as opposed to some of the other powers mentioned on this list, which are kind of random. Captain Kate Pryde, as we know her now, or Kitty Pryde, or Shadow Cat, as we once knew her, has been struggling with her phasing powers lately in the comics. Now, I don't want to spoil anything for those of you who aren't caught up yet on the Marauders comics, so we're going to only talk about a mystery that is revealed in issue 1, talk about some stuff that happens sort of later, but I won't give anything away. And this mystery plot point that we're talking about is that Kate cannot enter Krakoa. Not just that she cannot use her powers, not just that, she can't even use her powers to phase through a gate or any other organic Krakoan matter. The answer as to why hasn't been revealed yet, but many speculate this unexplainable power restriction could actually have to do with Kate not really being a mutant. Now, what do you think? Are Kate's powers possibly not mutant in origin anymore? Also, if you want, one of the other things I'm talking about happens in Marauders issue number 6, and I would encourage you to check out that issue of Marauders if you're into this whole mystery thing. Also, just read all of Marauders. It's really good. You should read it. If you like Kitty Pryde, if you like Storm, sorry, Kate Pryde. Number 2, invisible jet. So while it's actually a piece of equipment and not really an inherent superpower, Wonder Woman has a lot of extra items that are iconic for granting her additional abilities or additional powers, like her bracelets and her lasso. Her invisible jet is also one of those items. Of course, an invisible plane sounds like an amazing thing to have. It allows you to fly and grants you the ability to sneak up on your enemies, except that it really isn't as stealthy as you'd think, as the pilot of the jet can actually be seen through the invisible exterior of the ship, meaning that on a clear day, you'd be able to see Wonder Woman approaching you from miles away, just flying towards you in like a seated position. So, not really initially as cool as it sounds, I think. Number 1, mostly invulnerable, despite Kara Zor-El being a sometimes Kryptonian, of course depending on the storyline that you're reading. We won't go into all the convoluted origins that Power Girl has had. So with Power Girl from Earth 2 being more often than not associated with Kryptonian physiology, as opposed to Atlantean, which grants her super strength when powered by a yellow sun, you would expect that she would be super durable as well. After all, super strength without durability, it doesn't make much sense, as performing feats of strength could leave you crippled. And, you know, Superman's also super durable. And of course, she is invulnerable. However, there was a time when all it took to beat Kara was sticks and stones. That's right, she was invulnerable except for unprocessed materials, which doesn't really make any sense. No matter her heritage in the storyline, any way you slice it, it's a pretty weird stipulation to put on that power. You're telling me that if I fire a bunch of big guns and torpedoes at her, it'll do nothing, but if I throw like a rock at her head, she's done for? What the heck? Of course, Power Girl is also one of those characters who's really just had a rough go when it comes to weird changes to her character like this one.
Starting us off in at number 10, Hope Summers. Hope is the adoptive daughter of Cable, a character who first debuted in 2007 in X-Men issue 205. She was the first mutant born after the events of House of M and Decimation. Now because of this, she had a big old target on her little baby back, because she was a baby then, with Cable saving her, claiming that she was a messiah destined to save both mutant and humankind. Now Hope is capable of something called superpower manipulation. This means she can mimic other powers, activate the powers of others, and enhance powers. Plus, she's an Omega-level mutant to boot. She got a major power upgrade during the Avengers vs. X-Men story arc when the character was bonded with the Phoenix Force, which gave her immortality. Up next, number 9, Mistress Love. Let's move on to a Marvel character cut from a very different cloth, a god. We're talking about Mistress Love, who debuted back in 1982's Defenders issue 107. The character is the physical embodiment of love, much like how Mistress Death is the physical embodiment of death. While we've never seen the full extent of her powers, this abstract entity is one of the universe's most powerful, and she can control emotions related to love with any being, even on a universal scale. Her powers are said to be stronger than Galactus or Odin, but not as strong as Eternity or Infinity. Also, fun fact, her gender and appearance are mutable, meaning she can also be depicted as a man. She often reflects the desires of those who see her. Up next, number 8, Moira McTaggart. Moira is not just a hot scientist, people. This was big news in the recent House of X, where it was revealed that she wasn't just a human ally and a mutant advocate. Oh no, girl is a mutant too, people, and she's impressive as Moira's mutant powers allow for her to reincarnate, in a sense. She's a mutant with limited reality-warping reincarnation powers. She has perfect memory and is able to hide her true nature to mutants and mutant detection devices. So far, she's lived 10 lives, having started her life again after she died, possessing full memories of her previous lives. When she returns to being in utero, she's fully sentient. So yeah, that is pretty darn impressive. Moving on to number 7, DC's Valkyries. Moving on from Marvel over to DC for this number, let's talk about a group of bad women, the Valkyries. While notably different than the Valkyries of Marvel fame, DC's Valkyries are still rooted in Nordic legend, being armored maidens who ride winged horses from a place called Asgard. They would first appear in a DC comic all the way back in 1946 in Comic Cavalade issue 17. And have appeared since with little consistency. In the Golden Age, they appeared as Wonder Woman villains, but now on Prime Earth, they are part of the same race as the Amazons. Regardless, they have always remained immortal beings, ones with superhuman strength and quite the talent for combat. Up next, number 6, Cirque from Earth 2. Another DC character at this number. Cirque, specifically the Cirque of Earth 2, is immortal. This version, who debuted during the Golden Age in 1949's Wonder Woman issue 37, was initially a villain for Diana prior to being defeated by her. After her defeat, she would be taken to a place called Transformation Island, located on Paradise Island, where she was taught the ways of love and discipline by the Amazonians. Cirque's immortality is rooted in her magic powers. She also has the ability to command Sorkan jewelry trees using chlorokinesis, and is capable of metamorphosis with the ability to turn humans into animals. She also has a killer jawline. That's a power too, right? In at number 5, Threnody. Threnody is Melody Jacobs, a Marvel mutant who first graced their panels in 1993 in Strife's Strike File issue 1. She's a necroplasmic energy vampire, empowered by necroplasm. She's capable of sensing certain necroplasmic energies that surround an individual when they are dying or near death. To her, she's enraptured by the scent of death and the taste of the energy. Eerie, isn't it? She can also manipulate said energy to absorb the remaining life energies that a dying individual is releasing, and then can convert them into explosive plasma or temporarily reanimate someone into a zombie. In other words, don't with her. She can create hordes of zombies if the energy isn't supplied. Now, because of these powers, she is also immortal, able to absorb the necroplasmic energy of her own death in order to regenerate or return to life. Up next, number 4, All-Mother Storm. This version of X-Men member Storm hails from Earth 20329, also known as Marvel's steampunk god world. Yes, that is a thing. This is a universe riddled by mutant gods, who eventually an evil Charles Xavier took mental control of. In this universe, Storm is an immortal god known as the Skybreaker and is married to Thor. When she was taken over by Xavier mentally, he caused her to create a massive drought. Luckily, she wasn't under his control for too long and would offer the other X-Men the ability to become immortal, turning Emmeline Frost Summers into an immortal god with a diamond body. I wonder who her parents are. All-Mother Storm has the same powers as her 616 counterpart, but with a divine twist, seeing that she is immortal and has the ability to bestow god powers and immortality onto others. And as she puts it, she's free forever from the pain, doubt, and agony of mortal life. Moving on to number 3, Donna Troy. Donna Troy, previously known as Wonder Girl, is an Amazonian who, after some fun retconning, was created by an evil sorceress to destroy Wonder Woman. Diana would find out about this, save the day, and then shield Donna from the truth of her origin by giving her false memories of being a normal girl who was rescued and raised as an Amazonian. Ah yes, gotta love a retcon. Donna would become a founding member of the Teen Titans and has long remained a part of DC's canon despite enduring her fair share of retcons, as we mentioned multiple times at this number. She was gifted immortality thanks to her Amazonian physiology. Amazonians, fun fact, can live forever, but can be killed in combat or by accident. And if you're part of the Amazonians of Bana Migdal, well, they lost their immortality when they broke apart from the original Amazonian group. So, with Donna Troy being on our list, it's probably no surprise that our next number found her way into our top 3, and at number 2, Wonder Woman. In general, Wonder Woman is a character who has had a tough time getting killed thanks to how immensely strong and powerful she is. For the record, on Prime Earth, Diana Prince has been bestowed with divine empowerment. Gifted with various powers by the gods of Olympus. She's a demigoddess with longevity that allows her to live much longer than the regular human being. But she ain't immortal. That being said, she is a character who has had multiple iterations of her created in the past that exist on other Earths that are, in fact, immortal. This is the case on Earth 2, Earth 508 aka DC Super Friends, Gal Gadot in the DC Extended Universe, a slew of negative Earths for the Dark Multiverse, many of which she's murdered in despite being mortal, and even the Wonder Woman television series starring Linda Carter. Diana in general is also one of DC's iconic trifecta, meaning she's got a decent amount of plot armor that prevents her from being killed off at the whims of DC's publishers. And hey, that counts for something, right? And finally, in our number 1 spot, Jean Grey. I mean, there's a slew of jokes that could be made here. Girl has died again, and again, and again, and again. But there's also a lot of truth to it, thanks to her being an Omega-level mutant and one of the most powerful female superheroes out there. Jean, without the Phoenix Force, is incredibly powerful, but when acting as the Phoenix Force's avatar, that power multiplies significantly. She's capable of manipulating matter and energy on a subatomic scale using her telekinesis. She's capable of resurrection, which is largely to thank for a handful of her resurrections. This makes her immortal to an extent. When she does die, she won't stay dead. Case in point, let's count those deaths and resurrections. Or at least some of them. The first happened in Uncanny X-Men issue 101 in 1975 when she first encountered the Phoenix while trying to telepathically maneuver a space shuttle with her teammates on it safely back to Earth. She crashed and seemingly died, but turns out the Phoenix Force saved her, resurrecting her in that very same issue. Once it corrupted her a little later on, she took her own life in Uncanny X-Men issue 137 in 1980. After that, Madeline Pryor, her clone, showed up, Cyclops fell for Madeline, they had a kid, and then the real Jean came back in 1985 with the reveal that the Phoenix had actually made a copy of her, and put her real body and self into an egg underwater, a Phoenix egg, in which she was reborn again and absolved of the planetary genocide that the Dark Phoenix version of her committed. Convenient. In the early 90s, Jean would be killed by a Sentinel, but then resurrected 2 issues later. Then, during Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, he killed her off when the Phoenix Force bonded with the real her, and in order to stop her, Magneto used an electromagnetic pulse to give her a stroke, with Wolverine then stabbing her in order to save her from an agonizing death. I mean, that sounds pretty agonizing to me. She would be resurrected again in 2005 in Phoenix Endsong, in which her soul went into a dimension known as the White Hot Room and ascended to another plane of existence. So technically she was dead, but not really. From there, whether she was dead or not, she would be MIA for over a decade, eventually coming back in 2018 in a story titled Phoenix Resurrection: The Return of Jean Grey.
Number 10, Starlight. Annie January might not seem super terrifying on the surface, but as a member of the Seven, she is not one to be underestimated. Starlight is a superhero in the world of the boys. While she starts out as one of the few members of the team who actually seems motivated to perform heroic acts for the sake of simply doing good, she finds herself eventually changed through her exposure to the vile attitudes of the other members of the Seven, who are revealed to be all pretty much corrupt supers, only out for money and themselves. She herself also becomes violent after suffering constant mental and sexual abuse from her teammates. So while Starlight might seem like a sweet, innocent superhero and one of the kinder of the Seven's teammates, don't be fooled. Number 9, Deathface Ginny. Deathface Ginny is the hero and one of the main characters of Image's series Pretty Deadly. She is said to be very beautiful, getting her beauty from her mother's side, but she also wears the mark of a skull, inspired by her father, Death. Deathface Ginny is a spirit of vengeance, kind of like Ghost Rider, but more in a Western style. Western folklore style, really. She doesn't have specific powers, but is considered to be mighty deadly with a firearm and in unarmed combat. Deathface Ginny is hell-bent on seeking revenge on the man who caused her mother to kill herself. This man was originally her mother's husband, who locked his wife away because she was so beautiful. Too beautiful. And he feared losing her. Deathface Ginny is as strikingly pretty as she is terrifying. And there is something sad and haunting about her beauty that just draws you in. Number 8. Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff is the deadly variety of scary, which is what gets her on this list. Also, she's a highly skilled and intelligent spy, so I feel like there are many situations where you wouldn't be sure if you were able to trust her or if she was playing you. She also has a history of using the skills of seduction in order to get what she needs out of her target. Also, while Natasha may be good now, we have seen alternate versions of her that have explored a world where her superhero persona has all just been a big ruse. Even when she's not being explored as a potentially evil double agent though, we have still seen her kill people in her job as an assassin, while still being an Avenger. In 2014's Black Widow series, Natasha once more returns to her life as a contracted spy and killer. Granted, she only does this to acquire supplemental income, which she uses to atone for her past sins as a deadly assassin, and she really only takes out those that deserve it. She's selective. But still, the idea of her as a killer makes her pretty terrifying. Sexy, but terrifying. Number 7. Wolfsbane. Rain St. Clair is a Scottish mutant who is known for her affiliation with the X-Men team. Her mutant power, however, is somewhat frightening if monster movies tend to spook you, or if you're afraid of wolves. That's right, Rain's power is that of lycanthropy. That is, she can turn into a wolf or a werewolf, depending on who's drawing her. But although her appearance in this form might be startling, you shouldn't need to fear for your life around Wolfsbane. Her animal instinct does not overpower her human consciousness, and her transformations are not controlled by the moon cycle, so they're not as unpredictable. She can change in and out of this form as necessary. And Rain is pretty freaking cute when she is in her human form, and some might also find her cute in her wolf form, I guess, if you're into that kind of thing. Number 6. Liz Sherman. With Liz, I think it's the danger element that lends well to finding her both attractive and, well, hot. Liz is one of the characters from Hellboy and is part of Hellboy's BPRD team of field agents. For those not familiar with Hellboy, 1, where have you been? Go check out the comics or the movies or both. And 2, the BPRD is the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Kind of like when Angel takes over the LA Department of Wolfram and Hart, mixed in with like a little bit of a Men in Black feel. The BPRD usually deals with supernatural threats, protecting the world against demons, Nazis, and evil witches, while also researching that which is otherworldly in the process. Liz struggles in her role as an agent with the BPRD. She finds her pyrokinetic abilities hard to control, and usually ends up leaving the BPRD because of her uncertainty in her abilities, and herself, though she pretty much always comes back, finding the outside world even more difficult to navigate. Number 5. Jean Grey. I think with Jean, there's always this underlying fear of just how powerful she is, that both makes her attractive and equally terrifying. Being the preferred host for the Phoenix means that she is likely one of the most powerful beings in the universe, as the Phoenix itself is attracted to power. Power likes power, unsurprising. While Jean herself is typically kind, gentle, and understanding, if you piss her off, there is the fear that she could lose control over her power, lash out, and in some cases, potentially become the Dark Phoenix. If, she's possessed by the Phoenix Force at the time. There is still always that risk that the power of the Phoenix could return to Jean at any time, and that the smallest thing could set her off. Number 4. Josephine. Jo is both a hero and victim in the story Fatale. She is a mysterious character who finds herself tied up in a demonic plot involving the Elder Gods and a sect made up of people and beings that worship them. Her powers are both a blessing and a curse. They allow her to seduce and control almost any man who sets eyes on her. This usually results in the death of those who love her and whom she loves. But her powers can also be used as a weapon to protect her and others against those who would otherwise cause her or them harm. Josephine also looks like an even more stunning version of the already gorgeous Greta Garbo. While she appears as a woman out of time, she also seems to fit into almost any time period as well. She's also drawn by Sean Phillips, whose art only makes her appear even more attractive. Beautiful art. Beautiful art for the win. Number 3. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is supposed to be all about love though, right? So how can she be scary? Well, something that you may be forgetting is that Diana has also held the title of God of War, so she isn't always all about love and hope. As God of War, one of the powers Diana has is the power to command any soldier or army, which is kind of hot, but also kind of terrifying. So if you weren't already frightened by the sheer power of Wonder Woman alone, her super speed, her strength, her agility, or her skills as a fighter, then this added power might make you cower somewhat in fear at the prospect of Wonder Woman. Of course, it is also all this power that just adds to how attractive Wonder Woman is. She is scary hot for sure. Number 2, She-Hulk. She-Hulk, being one of the strongest superheroes out there, definitely is someone you should be scared of, especially if you make her angry. Not because that will result in her transformation though, that's not really how it works for Shulky, but because if she gets angry with you, there is a chance she'll use her super strength against you. Or even if she doesn't have her super strength at the time, she'll sue the pants off of you. Tony Stark. We've also seen just how scary she can be when she's emotionally distraught or unstable, like when we saw her turn gray. And then, she is proper scary. Not the fun She-Hulk you were used to. Despite her somewhat monstrous appearance though, Jennifer Walters is still known for being one of the hottest superheroes around. She is smart, powerful, playful, strong, confident, and sexy. The whole package, really. Number 1, Vampirella. With Vampy, it's all about her sort of being a monster, or an alien, or an alien monster, depending on which origins we're going with here. Vampirella appears to be, by most folklore standards, a vampire. What she really is more complex than that. But for the purpose of this list, all you really need to know is that yes, she does drink blood. What makes her scary yet also sexy? This danger element. She could easily make a meal out of you if she wanted. Her power and the suspense of that potential danger of possibly being consumed by her is what is so intoxicating about her. She is also a hero who is not against killing, which only adds to the danger factor.